So I had been I had been struggling really bad at work. Um, and I was debating like going on disability basically. And I found your group and it talked about like these acceptance methods of just accepting the symptoms without trying to fix them. And I had already kind of had a foundation of those beliefs. But when I called you, I remember saying like, okay, I get this, I get this, I get this, but what about this? Like these leg tremors, this has to be something else. And you were
All
like,
right, guys, welcome to the channel. I have another anxiety success story. This one is really special. I have Pearla right here, and she's had actually an amazing journey. And I asked her if she can come and share her story with you so that she can possibly create some inspiration for you and kind of help you on your journey. So, Pearla, welcome.
thank you. Hello.
So, before we get started, let me know, how did this all start? Like, how did you begin? How did your anxiety struggles kind of begin?
So I've had anxiety my whole life pretty much, like since I was a kid, but it became significant when my physical symptoms started showing up, which started happening 2 years ago. And I don't know if it was anything stressful going on in my life, but that's when I started getting concerned, was when I started physically manifesting my anxiety. And yeah, the peak of it was this past fall and winter.
In terms of your anxiety manifest, what were some of the symptoms you were experiencing?
Ugh, some of the weirdest things. So let's see. The more classic ones were like heart palpitations, dizziness, like a pressure in my head, a loss of balance, not a loss of balance, but feeling unbalanced. I never lost my balance. But the one that concerned me the most was the leg tremors. I don't know if my legs were actually shaking or not, but it felt like they were. Um, and it would persist all day, no matter what I was doing, resting, working. So yeah, that was the biggest one that concerned me.
Did you ever go to like the doctors and stuff? Like, were you convinced it was something else, or was it?
Yeah, I'd been to the doctors a few times. Once I had been to the emergency room, like I walked into the emergency room and was like, my legs are shaking, I'm having muscle weakness, stuff like that. And it was funny because they were like, and they were very respectful, but it was funny because they were like, well, can you walk or do you need a wheelchair? And I was like, oh, I guess I can walk. Like, so yeah, I had been to the emergency room a couple times. I'd been to my primary care physician, got all the tests done, got an MRI, everything, and everything turned out fine. And I'll get to it later when I called you and when I went to the doctor the last time, but I had definitely previously been to the doctor a few times.
Did you ever believe it was anxiety, like, or were you kind of like me? Were you like stubborn? Where I always thought they had missed something because the symptoms were just so physical that I was like, no, 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 this can't be it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I talked to all my friends who struggle with anxiety, and no one had talked about the same things. So yeah, I was definitely convinced it was something else. It was something physical. And yeah, the weird thing is I knew I had anxiety. I'd been diagnosed many, many times from professionals, but I still was like, no, this isn't it.
Yeah. What was your turning point? At what point were you like, oh, maybe this is anxiety?
um, so that was definitely when I called you. So I had been struggling really bad at work. Um, and I was debating like going on disability basically. And I found your group and it talked about like these acceptance methods of just accepting the symptoms without trying to fix them. And I had already kind of had a foundation of those beliefs. But when I called you, I remember saying like, okay, I get this, I get this, I get this, but what about this? Like these leg tremors, this has to be something else. And you were like, well, like go to the doctors, rule everything out, and once they do rule everything out, know that that's your answer, that it is anxiety, and then you can group it all in that category, kind of. So that was the turning point because I went to the doctors for the fourth time. They said everything's fine, and then I was like, okay, I know it. I had your validation basically. I was like, I know this is anxiety, so now I can move forward and just live with these symptoms basically and not fear them.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really common thing. So for those that are listening to this conversation, Pearl, she wasn't really, we had one conversation, I think, right? Literally just one, I think.
Yep.
And it wasn't like she was like a client of mine or anything, but we did have one chat. And this is a very common thing. People struggling with anxiety. It's very easy to think you have multiple problems. It's like, okay, I get it, I have anxiety, but what about this one thing? And it
Exactly.
typically, right? It's typically the one that scares you too the most. And so it's really important that once you've gotten everything rolled out, to put everything under the anxiety umbrella. And so
Yeah.
rather than having 15 problems or 2 problems, you have one problem. And it's so easy. Anxiety is great at convincing you it's anything else but anxiety.
Mhm.
Cardinal, it's classic. But the quicker you can accept that this is all anxiety, no matter how bizarre, no matter how strong these symptoms are, the quicker you can start on your recovery journey. Um, so as you were doing that, how was your journey? Like once you started realizing, okay, you had the validation, okay, this could be anxiety. How was that process for you?
It was pretty quick. Dealing with the actual symptoms wasn't too challenging because once I knew it was anxiety, I had already had these beliefs that anxiety can't hurt you, it can't kill you, it's really rare for you to pass out, things like that. So it was easy to just go to work, hang out with my friends, do everything I normally would do with the symptoms and just let them be there as long as they needed to be there, without trying to solve them or fix them. And then within a few weeks, the leg tremors completely went away. A lot of the symptoms completely went away. And I say that not to like tell people like hope for it to go away, but I'm just saying that's what happens to me. And the symptoms that still exist are literally so far into the background that I don't notice them at all until someone's bringing up anxiety. I'm like, oh, I have that too, but I don't even notice.
Yeah. Even those will go away over time too. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting better and better. It's like
Yeah.
you're already, it's like a problem that you have, but you already know it's gonna be fixed. So it's there, but it's kind of like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, that's actually kind of how recovery looks like. What happens is that people just end up getting other problems and they know this problem is going to get fixed over time. So it's like whether it's there or not, it's kind of meaningless because it's like it's going to get better. And in the end,
Right.
it's nothing. Yeah. Yeah. That's where I would say where recovery actually comes. I find like people can be recovered even before all the symptoms disappear. Now they do end up disappearing. It just takes sometimes it's just based on the nerves to heal. And
Hmm.
sometimes that just takes a little bit longer. But what if someone's in the right mindset that they know what's happening, um, I'm like, okay, this person's good. They just need a little bit
Yeah.
more time, and then that those symptoms are gone. But they're busy living life. They're enjoying themselves. That's
Right.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I did notice I felt like you picked it up very quickly. Very quickly. I actually
Yeah.
didn't know the turning point was on our conversation. I actually had thought that you knew this. Maybe you needed a little bit of validation. But I actually thought when we had the talk, I was like, she picked it up pretty quick. I think she knows what's happening. And I actually didn't know that was the turning point.
Yeah, definitely it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. But you did great. I don't even remember when the call was. I don't know what time of the year it was, or was it last year?
I
Was
don't
it
know
early this year?
either.
I don't even know.
It was honestly, I think it was in the winter. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it wasn't. You made great progress. It's quite amazing, and and you did it kind of on your own, which is it's
Yeah.
well done. It's not that easy, and you did a
Thank
great
you.
job. Um, what would you tell people that are like kind of in this similar situation that have those symptoms that are so bizarre, who feel like it's a life sentence? What would you tell them?
Um, the biggest thing is again, like there's no symptom that is out of question for anxiety. It can be the craziest thing. It can be like a floating in your eye. It can be a weird tingling. It can be a pressure in your head. It can feel like your heart's going to skip a beat. Just all of these crazy things. But once you know that you have anxiety, once you're already researching therapies and you're researching methods to deal with it, you're already aware that anxiety is your issue. And then once you do, like you said, you can group anything under that umbrella. And once you do that, you know that there's nothing really to fear, that nothing's going to hurt you. You're going to be okay. Um, and that, yeah, recovering completely is possible. That's the biggest thing I would let people know is that you can recover from this completely.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome. Did you have any like support when your recovery journey? Like, was there anything that was kind of like helping you anytime like the days were difficult and stuff? Like, did you have like a
Yes.
therapist or like
Um, I didn't
books?
currently have a therapist once I saw you. I had had previous ones in the past, but this site called anxietycenter.com helped me because it has testimonials of people experiencing
Hmm.
symptoms. So I would just go on there and read like the crazy symptoms people were having,
Hmm.
and it would just confirm to me like, okay, this is anxiety, you know. Other than that, yeah, just my twin sister. We would talk about it all the time.
You have a
So
twin sister?
I do, yeah.
That's awesome. What's her name?
Yeah, Violet.
Violet. Violet and Pearla. That's awesome. Is she also in Seattle?
Yeah. Yeah, I live with her actually.
Awesome. Are you guys like
Yeah,
what is it, like maternal, like identical, or are you guys like
we're
fraternal?
fraternal.
Oh, gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool, cool. Well, Perla, I'm so glad you were part of the community. I'm so glad you were sharing your story. I was really happy you were just in the Facebook group and you were kind of contributing there too,
Yeah,
becoming a source of inspiration. So um, thank you for doing this interview.
of
For
course.
those, what was the website called? Anxiety Center? Yeah, so it's Anxiety Center, spell CENTRE. Is it .org or
.com.
.com? Gotcha,
Yep.
gotcha. And if you guys want to be part of a community, the one Pearl in, the one I'm in, that's also showing step by step how to overcome and also having other people fully recovered, helping those members. Click the link down below. It's the private Facebook group. Whenever you join that private Facebook group, it asks you 3 specific questions. It's very important that you answer those 3 questions to the best of your ability. We want people in the group, but we also want to maintain the integrity of the group. We want to show anxiety for really what it is. We don't want it to be a place where people are story topping or fear mongering. You know how like toxic forums can get. So this is a place where we really want to show anxiety recovery focused on long-term freedom. So if that's you, hit the link down below. Perla, thank you so much again for joining and sharing your story. I know it's a very personal thing, and you sharing it. I know there's people out there because I get messages all the time. People literally just like you who feel like they're the only people in the world, and just you sharing your story is so helpful to them. So thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Cool, guys. All right.